We're changing the setting today because I didn't want to carry all of my spices upstairs. Hey everyone, it's Caitlin and welcome to another video. This video is going to be a tour of my spice cabinet. If you guys have been subscribed to me for a while, you will know that a few months ago when I moved into this apartment, I filmed a what's in my pantry tour and I showed all of the dry staples that I keep in my pantry. If you're interested, I will link it here in this video and in the description of the video as well if you want to see some of my basic food staples. But during that video, I mentioned that I have a pretty extensive spice cabinet and you guys seemed like you really wanted to see a tour of that. So that's where we are today. I think spices are so important, and I know a lot of people, especially college students or people who are on a budget, tend to shy away from spices because they see them as more expensive. A lot of people complain that vegan food can be boring because it doesn't have a lot of flavor, but if you think about it, meat inherently doesn't have a lot of flavor either, and the reason why people like chicken or like steak or like that stir fry is because a lot of spices and seasonings were added to it. Personally, I do enjoy the taste of most vegetables by themselves. However, I will agree that adding seasoning to your food just makes it so much better. And if you are struggling with eating more vegan food or vegetables because you don't think it's as flavorful, I will say, one, your taste buds do adapt and eventually that does become more flavorful. But two, you can just make it more awesome with spices as well. And you can also find spices cheaper at certain stores. I know Trader Joe's usually has pretty good prices on their spices. And also if you live near a bulk bin section, I would definitely check it out because I've gotten some spices in bulk before and I've saved money that way as well. So I'm going to show you all the spices that I have in my cabinet, but I do want to preface this by saying it is a lot. And I didn't all just buy this overnight. I basically started with like maybe 5 things in my cabinet and then I slowly expanded over the course of the last 5 years or so. I would say that I have 95% of the spices that I would need for any recipe that I would make on my day-to-day life. And honestly, if a recipe has that other 5%, I usually just make it without it or substitute something because I'm lazy. Said, I don't want you guys to feel like you have to go out and buy all these spices right away in order to have awesome food. So I'm going to organize this video by sections to make it a little bit easier for you guys. But the first section I'm going to do is the most important, and it's going to be my 5 favorite spices and the spices that I think that you should invest in right away and they would totally make a difference in your cuisine. Now, the most important spice that I think everyone should have in their pantry is garlic powder. Now, I think garlic powder is so versatile and you can use it in so many different ways in so many different recipes. Honestly, every time I cook food and I'm adding spices to it, if I didn't already add fresh garlic to it, I add garlic powder. Well, savory food. But on that note, the difference between fresh garlic and garlic powder is that fresh garlic tends to burn. So if you're roasting vegetables in the oven at a high heat, or you want some garlic flavor on your potatoes, if you use fresh garlic on it, the garlic is going to cook in a lot less time than the actual vegetable itself, so it will burn and get brown and the flavor isn't as good. However, if you use garlic powder doesn't burn, so you still get that awesome garlicky flavor without the burnt charcoal taste. My next holy grail of spice that's right up there with garlic powder is cinnamon. And I feel like a lot of people do have cinnamon. It's a pretty common spice, but I add cinnamon to pretty much every single sweet food. I add it to my oatmeal, I'll add it to my banana ice cream. It's absolutely amazing. And every time I make a baked good like breads or desserts, I always usually add cinnamon in it because I'm like, oh, a little cinnamon never hurt anyone. Cinnamon also has some amazing health benefits, so if you want to look into that more, you totally could. Personally, I just love the taste, and it's like sort of spicy, but in an awesome way. So yeah. The next 3 spices are a little more particular, but they're the flavors that I really like the most. So my next favorite would have to be cumin or cumin. I think you can pronounce it either way, I'm pretty sure. Basically, this spice is also pretty versatile in my opinion. It's very common in Mexican cooking or Hispanic cooking. That's more in South American regions. But it's also really common in Indian cooking. So I found that it doubles really well in Mexican food and Indian food, and I love both of those food genres, if you will. And I think a little bit of this goes a very long way and adds an amazing flavor. It pairs really well with fresh cilantro too. My next spice may not be everyone's favorite spice, but it is smoked paprika. And this I got at a bulk food store. It is a Spanish smoked paprika, but any smoked paprika, I'm pretty sure, tastes the same. But this gives an incredible smoky peppery flavor to your food. My favorite way to use this is with roasted vegetables. It gives a great depth of flavor and I love the smokiness of it. I do love regular paprika as well, but personally I am a fan of smoky flavor, so if you don't like smoke, I would just get regular paprika. It also has a really gorgeous color, and paprika is not peppery in the sense of a hot, fiery pepper. It's more of like the red pepper, just has a general peppery taste, you know? In case you guys are wondering, when I make potato fries, my most common seasoning mix is smoked paprika, garlic powder, and cumin. So that's probably why these are all my top 5 favorite spices. And then my final favorite spice I actually need to stock up on more. I'm running incredibly low. It's a Chipotle chili pepper. So personally, I'm not really a fan of Tabasco sauce because I find that it doesn't have a lot of flavor and it's just a lot of heat. And I love spicy food, but I like when it has flavor as well. So this adds a really nice smoky flavor, but it also adds that fire when you want to make your mouth burn or just tingle a little. So those are my top 5 favorite spices. I'm going to write them in the description of this video if you want a quick list to copy and paste somewhere. But now I'm going to move into my other spices, and I sort of just grouped this by sections, and I'm just gonna go straight through it. So first I will start with sweet spices, I guess. So besides cinnamon, I really don't have that many sweeter spices, but I also feel like spices are less common in sweet things. But aside from cinnamon, my second favorite sweeter spice would definitely have to be cardamom. This is an Indian spice, and if you can get your hands on the pods, get those versus the ground stuff because they have a lot more flavor. But this is also used in some savory Indian cooking, but it has a really unique taste. It's really good in rice, puddings, and I also like to add it to my oatmeal sometimes just to switch things up. My next 2 spices that I have are actually pretty similar. This one is ground nutmeg, and nutmeg is really good with apples and in apple pies and stuff. And then the final one that I have is just pumpkin pie spice, and this really isn't an essential in your pantry because you can make it yourself. All it is cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and allspice. So if you have those 4 spices, you don't need to spend the extra money to get this. But I don't have dried ginger or allspice at the moment, so I do have this, and that is helpful. This is really great in oatmeal too, or make like a pumpkin pie smoothie. You're not gonna regret it. And finally, for sweet things, these aren't spices per se, but I did wanna say I have a bottle of vanilla extract that is basically essential in any sweet thing ever. And then I also have some almond extract, and I really love almond extract. It has sort of a maraschino cherry type of flavor, and some people hate that, but I absolutely love it. And guys, if you ever make cherry smoothies and you add a little bit of almond extract to it, it takes the flavor to the next level. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my dried herbs. So I think fresh herbs are really important, but I never tend to buy them just because they are a little bit more expensive and they seem to have a short shelf life. So what I've done instead is I have a few dried herbs that I use pretty regularly in my cooking, and then this way I can use these instead of having to go out and buy the fresh version. And I do think the flavor is slightly different for some of these things, but for me it works. So I have 4 dried herbs that I use. These 2 I use less. I have some dried basil and I have some dried oregano, and I only really use these when I'm doing Italian cooking. Like if I'm making pasta and I'm feeling super lazy, I will add these into it because it gives it more depth of flavor. But fresh basil is definitely better than dried basil, I will admit. But these are also really great in pizza dough. So I'll actually put these into the dough so that way it gets an additional extra flavor when I'm making a kick-ass vegan pizza and I have some like extra zest in it. Then the other 2 herbs that I have, I use more for roasting vegetables, and I would highly recommend these. These go really well with root vegetables or more starches, or I guess fall flavors is what I would think of. And I use these almost all the time when I am roasting vegetables in the oven. And the first one is thyme, and this one almost made it into my top 5 favorite spices, but it's definitely number 6, is dried rosemary. Rosemary is one of my favorite flavors, and if you can read it, it's in a cumin jar, but it's just because I use the cumin up and I put it in here because I bought the rosemary in bulk. Definitely try these on like baked potatoes or with roasted butternut squash. Yeah, those would be my 2 favorite ways to use them. So next I have like a few random spices that don't really qualify in any specific category. I also have a regular paprika because I actually bought this before I got smoked paprika, and then I realized how much more awesome smoked paprika is. So I'll use this occasionally, but I usually go for the smoked paprika now. I also have a thing of chili powder, which I think is absolutely essential to a kitchen. But that's just me personally because I love chili, and I think chili is one of those super easy things to make that can last you throughout the whole week. So when I do make chili, I usually add chili powder, and I like cumin, and I'll probably add some paprika as well with like some cayenne pepper or chipotle pepper. And those are pretty much my bases for the like flavor profile of the chili. So this is really great for that. It's also really good on fries, but like, let's be honest, what's not good on potato fries? And then I have a little thing of onion powder, but to be honest, I hardly ever use this. I usually just use fresh onions because I feel like they have more flavor. But like, it's the same thing with the garlic powder. I guess if you're using in a situation where the onion might burn or you don't want to have actual onion pieces in your food, you could use onion powder instead. And then I just bought a new thing of this, but I got some more turmeric. Turmeric is an Indian spice, and it's used in a lot of their spice blends or in curries. And that's what I typically use it for, but it's also a great anti-inflammatory agent. It's actually a root, and it's in the same family as a ginger root, and both of those herbs, or roots, are really good for anti-inflammatory properties. And if you guys watch Dr. Greger of nutritionfacts.org, he's like obsessed with turmeric. It has loads of health benefits, so you could definitely check it out. I've been actually putting it in my oatmeal or my smoothies to sort of like try it out, and I've been liking it so far. It has pretty mild flavor, so you could like pretty much add it to anything in my opinion, and you won't taste it. And then next, I have some spicy spices, as in peppers. So first I have cayenne pepper, and I mostly just use this to add to recipes when I want the food to be spicier, but I already feel like the flavor is good enough. Because personally, I don't really think cayenne has much of a flavor profile except for the heat. So I'll like add it to my chili if I want my chili to be a little bit spicier. And then my final spice, unfortunately, you guys can't really get, but you could make. So this is actually dried habanero peppers, and I'm lucky to have some friends here in Miami who actually have a dehydrator, and they have their own pepper plants, and so they dehydrate their peppers and grind them up into spice. And they were kind enough to dehydrate some habaneros for me and make it into a little spice jar. So Peter and Ruby, thank you. I know they're not watching this, but I'm just gonna say it anyways. But I've been sprinkling this on everything. It's kind of like the chipotle powder. Habaneros have a more smoky flavor, and it just makes the dish more robust. I don't know if sesame seeds count as spices, but I'll just quickly say I have both white and black sesame seeds. Honestly, I don't think you need both. I just have them both because I'm a food blogger and sometimes black looks better than white. Now I'm going to talk about all of the Indian spices that I have. Now, if you guys haven't tried Indian food and you like spicy food in a sense of like more robust flavor, I highly recommend checking out Indian cooking. A lot of the recipes are actually vegetarian, and they're very vegan friendly. It's easy to veganize them, and I just think the flavor combinations that Indian cooking have are usually so creative and delicious. Like, it's impossible to not like it, okay? However, the one drawback with Indian food is that it does use a wide variety of spices, so it can be more of an initial investment. I know when I was first getting into it, I was definitely spending a lot more money buying some strange ingredients, but once you build it up in your pantry, it's really easy to use those. So I'd say the two most essential seasonings for Indian cooking would be curry powder and garam masala. Oh god, I should have looked that up. But this is a really basic, like, essential spice that you use in a lot of Indian curries. And curry powder actually is not one specific spice. It's a blend of spices. So this is a really easy cheat if you want to get into Indian cooking but you don't want to make your own curry powder. So this is one from Trader Joe's, and I do like it. It's not, I've had other curry powders that I like more, but this one's really affordable. So for example, this one's a blend of cumin, turmeric, coriander, chili pepper, mustard, cardamom, ginger, cloves, nutmeg, red pepper, cinnamon, black pepper, and saffron. So as you can see, it's a lot cheaper to just buy one curry powder than to buy all those spices individually. So definitely look into that. Another spice that I have that I use a lot in Indian cooking is coriander powder. And for those of you who don't know, coriander is actually the same thing as cilantro. If you're a viewer outside of the United States, you already call cilantro coriander, but technically here in the United States, cilantro refers to the leaves of the plant while coriander refers to the seeds. Fun fact. And then I just have a few more Indian spices that I'm going to quickly go through. I actually have some whole cardamom pods. This is caraway seeds. I also have some fenugreek seeds. I don't think this is necessarily Indian. It's pretty versatile, but I also have a pretty decently sized bag of bay leaves. And then finally, I have a chana masala seasoning blend, which is really awesome. For those of you who don't know, chana masala is a very common chickpea dish that is Indian in its origin. So I can just toss this in, be super lazy, and I'm all set. I don't even have to worry about blending all the seasonings together. So that's pretty much all of my spices. I do have a few more things I wanted to show you guys. I have some seasoning blends. This company actually contacted me on Instagram. They don't know I'm filming this video, but I do enjoy their seasoning blends. The company's name is called Spice Mode. This is their Jamaican seasoning. They're mostly an Indian influenced company, so this is their tikka blend. I have a tandoor blend, and I also have a curry blend, and I actually think I like this one more than the Trader Joe's one. Honestly, these are really easy to throw into a recipe if you need it, but typically I just coat my potato fries in these because it gives it a different flavor if I want to switch things up, and I don't really use them for anything else. I will say though, if you are vegan and you want to buy spice blends, just be careful about the ones that you buy. The little spice packets that they sell in the grocery store sometimes are not vegan, I actually found out, and they'll add whey powder in, which is derived from milk, to sort of make the spices not stick together and clump. And a lot of those spices are also really high in sodium and have MSG as well, and I don't think either of those things are particularly healthy for you. So I think it's worth it just to buy the chili and the cumin and etc. to make your own chili versus buying like that taco seasoning pack. And then to completely finish, I just wanted to go over and say I do have salt and pepper in my pantry. For pepper, I have a fresh black pepper grinder, and if you're going to buy pepper, I think it's worth it to spend the extra few dollars and get the grinder that grinds the fresh peppercorns versus buying the already ground pepper, because this has so much more flavor and it keeps your spices fresher longer because the pepper's not already ground up and slowly losing flavor. And this is just basically a great topper on anything. Like, honestly, I can't think of any savory food I wouldn't put black pepper on if I felt like it. So as many of you know, most vegans or health conscious people try to limit their salt intake because it's not good for you. And while I completely agree with that, when I cook, sometimes I do use salt because it does enhance the flavor of your foods. And personally, I don't eat a lot of processed foods in my life, so my sodium intake is already really low. So me sprinkling a little salt on one of my dishes is definitely not going to kill me. So I have kosher salt. This is different from regular table salt because it doesn't have any iodine added to it. I like this because this is really good for fermenting foods or pickling because you don't want a salt that has iodine added to it. So I mostly just use that. And also Alton Brown uses this more than table salt, so that's originally why I bought it. And then finally, I have two more salts. I got this one last year and I don't use it too often, but it's a smoked oak sea salt. It's actually from Martha's Vineyard. A local company on the island makes it, and it's sea salt from the oceans of Martha's Vineyard, and they added smoked oak to it. And it does have a really unique flavor profile. So I don't know, sometimes if I'm making like avocado toast, I'll like sprinkle this on top to give it extra depth of flavor. And then finally, I just bought this actually yesterday when I went to Trader Joe's. I just got some Himalayan pink salt. If you are going to use a salt, you should try to use a salt like this. That's why I bought it, because in addition to sodium, it also has extra minerals in it, so it is overall more healthy for you than traditional table salt. Alright guys, that is officially everything. I apologize about the length of this video. I was trying to get through it as fast as I could, but I also wanted to give you guys tips on how to use these spices as well, because if you don't know how to use them, they definitely would be a waste of money. If you have a favorite spice that I didn't list, tell me in the comments below, because I absolutely love spices and would love to try your favorite spice out. So as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Now I have to put all the things I just showed to you guys back in my pantry.